Welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today we are into day 3 of free agency, guys. So this is going to be a brief show, just kind of reflecting on the free agent signings here in day 3. So wanted to go ahead and jump into the content, guys. So let's go ahead and throw up an image here so you guys can see some of the free agent moves. So far, the biggest move I think today was Calvin Ridley coming over to the Tennessee Titans. This is going to be interesting. So I'm seeing that the Titans have kind of revamped the offensive line here. They've also really shown that they really truly believe in Will Levis, which I think that that's fair. And to be honest with you, besides CJ Stroud, Will Levis might have been the second best quarterback in last year's draft. You saw flashes of that last year. Certainly, I think that this is what the Titans saw, where they said we're going to move on from Ryan Tannehill, understandably so. So now you go out here, you get him Calvin Ridley. I think $50 million is pretty much guaranteed. He's got a $92 million contract. He's gone over 1,000 yards for the second time in his career. And he really showed what he could do. And I picked this guy up on my fantasy football team last season. I knew he was going to come out with a vengeance, especially being suspended for such a long period of time. And he looked good. And now the question is, will he be able to mesh with a quarterback who is in his second season? And can Tony Pollard be a true primetime bell cow running back that the Dallas Cowboys could not get from him? Can they get it with the Titans? That's a question that has to be answered if the Titans are going to win. So I think that clearly the Titans won the day today, in my opinion, with probably the biggest splash. I thought that Calvin Ridley, to be honest with you, was going over to the Chiefs, but it didn't happen. And so he's going over to the Titans, obviously, where he got the money. So I get it. And hopefully they can get some winning going over there with the Titans now that they've pretty much revamped the entire regime over there and pretty much cleaned house. So another big move that happened here in day 3 is Mike Williams is cut. And then we had Khalil Mack, who stays but had to restructure his contract. So been hearing news that between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, both of them could possibly be out. And I think it's interesting to me that Keenan Allen is also possibly going to be out. I think that Keenan Allen for sure is the most consistent wide receiver in all of football. I think he had a terrific year, but it looks like that, Jim Harbaugh is pretty much, he's cleaning house at this point in time, and he's getting the contracts and the money right for these guys to make some major moves, whether that be in the draft or in next year's offseason. But it's interesting because you have a quarterback in Justin Herbert who is in the prime of his career if he can stay healthy. And now he's not going to have one of his bigger playmakers. And I know Mike Williams has been up and down, but I think he was really starting to come on the last couple seasons. But talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, like I think that Mike Williams is a guy that can end over with Kansas City, or I think Keenan Allen can end over in Kansas City. Like something tells me that Kansas City is going to get a wide receiver. I most certainly think they're going to get one in the draft, but I think a veteran wide receiver to go with that young core, added with Travis Kelce, I think certainly looks like it could possibly be another championship or Super Bowl appearance for this team. But, I think Mike Williams is definitely going to find a home here. I was talking to Devontae the Real Hogan. He wants to see him over in New England. I think it would be an interesting fit if he gets over to New England. I will say this. It would probably be the most established wide receiver that New England has had in quite some time. That's going back to the days of when they had Randy Moss and, they had Dante Stallworth and all those guys like that, not to take anything away from Julian Edelman, but Mike Williams is a guy that stretches the field, can make crazy spectacular catches, and it's a guy that you necessarily don't have to throw him open. He has a little bit of a Megatron feel to him like Calvin Johnson, and that's the thing that it's so intriguing about Mike Williams, because the catches and the degree of like the difficulty of catches that he has made and the touchdowns radius that he has in the red zone, I haven't seen that since Calvin Johnson. And it is just, he just can't stay on the field. So whoever picks him up, I think that that's going to be a great pickup. Next up, the Commanders. Wanted to talk about my Commanders here. So picking up Bobby Wagner, I know he's, 34, whatever the case may be, led the NFL in tackles. Dan Quinn has obviously worked with a lot of these guys. It looks like he continues to poach the entire NFL, whether it's Seattle or the Cowboys bringing guys over. But, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, I would have loved it if we would have been able to somehow get um, Patrick Queen over here. That's what I was really expecting, that Washington was going to possibly throw the money out there to get him. But Wagner has been a quarterback on the field. He's shown that he can still tackle at a high level. He's obviously worked with Dan Quinn. He feels very confident coming over here. I think Dan Quinn is going to lean on him a lot. I'm curious to see, what Dan Quinn is going to do in the draft. He's already brought over a lot of stars who are, they're aging, like Austin Eckler. He's got a lot of, tread on the tires. Zach Ertz, again, he has a lot of tread on the tires at tight end. But I see where he's trying to get some security with some real vets that have actually been there before. And I will say this about all the vets that he's bought over. They've all won. They've won more than considerably the entire Washington roster. And so I can see where Dan Quinn is actually moving in the direction of bringing in a winning culture. Just how much it translates to probably the most dysfunctional franchise in all of sports, yet to be remained. So, the Commanders and anything that they sign, I have to see it to believe it kind of deal. So that's what I'll say about that. Some other signings for today: Eric Kendricks coming over from the Chargers to the Cowboys. I think that this is a terrific pickup, for the Cowboys. I think that they needed some desperate outside linebacker help. 117 tackles for the Chargers last season. He was looking possibly to go ahead and look at the 49ers here. But, hey, he went over to Dallas, and I think Dallas will really need that help, especially Micah Parsons there. Jake Elliott, he's signing over here to the Eagles again, reaches an extension. Very good kicker there for the Eagles. Solid. We talked a little bit about the Titans. They also picked up Mason Rudolph, the former number one tight end there for the Vikings. So pretty solid pickup. It looks like the Titans, again, are kind of revamping, again, kind of taking the Washington Commanders route and actually trying to get a winning culture around their young quarterback. Joe Flacco to the Colts on a one-year deal. I thought this was interesting because, Flacco had a really good year. And I think that Flacco, honestly, if we're talking about bridge quarterbacks, I think that Joe Flacco is definitely a guy that I would love to have in my locker room as a bridge quarterback. And I think he's a guy that he's not going to come off the seat quickly either. And so it's interesting that the Colts would take this route. And that kind of makes me think that they're kind of wondering a little bit about Anthony Richardson and wondering, will Anthony Richardson stay healthy? I mean, he had a really good season. I'm not sure if he would have won the Roy or Rookie of the Year, but the fact that he plays with such violence in the running game as a quarterback and got knocked out of some games, obviously injured his shoulder, got knocked out with concussions. It's a nice insurance policy, I think, to have Joe Flacco, a guy that's won a Super Bowl, to come on in for the Colts. But I think that Joe Flacco, quiet as is kept, he might get called on a lot quicker than most would expect over here, especially with Anthony Richardson and kind of his injuries thus far, and even going into his second season. So, with that being said, guys, that is today's show for the most part, just talking about some of the splashes that happened here in day 3 of free agency. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments. Before we jump out of here, I wanted to let you know that you can actually find the show on Spotify, and those are in the show notes, or the links are in the show notes. You can also follow us here at YouTube under Real Talk Sports with Rico. Want to thank the fans out there and the guys who have actually, or the people actually who have actually subscribed to the show. We definitely appreciate that on the platforms. That has actually helped us drive stories and contents to the show. So I so appreciate you guys out there, and the sponsors out there who put sponsorship on the show. I definitely appreciate that. For myself, this is Real Talk Sports, guys. Happy free agency out there for the NFL fans. Man, football is back. March Madness is coming around the corner. The NBA playoffs are coming. MLB is starting. Hockey season's kind of kicking into full gear as well as they get ready to finish up. Great time to watch sports, guys. So go Real Talk Sports. Peace. I'll see you guys on the next one.